Hey, this is Erin Lindstrom, and you're listening to Thank You for You. This is a show about celebrating and acknowledging our humanness as well as our beingness, the easy and the hard, the gifts and the gifts we don't really like but choose to accept anyway. This is a show about and for people in pursuit of more peace, more joy, more money, more justice, and more of the awe that life has to give us. Thank you for being here, and thank you for you. Welcome back. This is Erin Lindstrom, and I'm so excited for this week's episode of the podcast. This week, we are talking to Linda Taliaferro, who is one of the most inspiring, smart, courageous, brilliant women that I've ever met. She is the Vice President of Global Quality for Meritor Inc., which is a leading global supplier of drivetrain, mobility, braking, and aftermarket solutions for commercial vehicle and industry markets. And she is a career coach who helps women kind of navigate the inside of the corporate world to get where they're trying to go, break through the glass ceilings, and really kind of take their trajectory into their own hands using different personal development tools and skills. So this conversation is beautiful and dynamic, and I'm so excited for you to listen. Right. Yay. I'm so excited for this episode. Linda, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
Erin, it is beyond an honor. I can't even express how much I appreciate you thinking of me to join your podcast. I'm so excited.
It's my pleasure. So meeting you, getting to know you, hearing about kind of your journey to entrepreneurship and through corporate and still being in corporate, I just find you to be such a powerful being, and your speaking and the way that you just kind of share your ideas. I feel like it's so moving. And so I was very excited to have this conversation and kind of dig in and let people see you and feel you. And I feel like so much gold just comes out of it. So no pressure.
Thanks.
And
no pressure.
I'm excited. Yeah. But I feel like it's got to be easy because I feel like you're truly being you and everything.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So to kind of start us off, I have a question that I like to ask people to kick us off, and it can be a little bit big. You are welcome to take it and interpret it however you would like. Okay. And the question is, who are you and how did you get here?
So yes, that is a big question. Who am I? Wow, that's a great question. Erin, I believe that, and I'll tell you, I didn't believe this years ago, but because I've really worked on me and I've gotten to the point that, I really love who I see in the mirror, and I believe I really have connected with my purpose. I am this person, this Black woman who was actually, who came here, was put here with a purpose to provide a pathway for other, and I won't say just Black women, but other women in general, to be able to use whatever traumatic experiences they've had, whether they be personal, whether they be professional, to understand the power that can be found in those and to leverage them, to take them forward. And I say that because, yes, I could, my bio's out there. We could talk about school I went to, what I do for my 9 to 5. But I have found such a purpose, such a meaning around the business that I started and helping women. But even before I started that business, mentoring young women, being in conversations over dinner and sharing, everything that's happened to me and how those negatives I've learned how to leverage and turn them into strengths. My daughter, who I, text all the time and try to impart wisdom, and she'll be 24 on Saturday, and it's just blessed my heart for her to reflect back and say, Mama, I wish I could be like you. You inspire me so much. I've become to realize that's my purpose. That's who I am. That's who I am. I used to believe, though, Erin, years and years ago that, I wasn't really worthy. I wasn't worth anything. I'm this super sensitive. I was a doormat. I was a lot of things that were not, in my eye, so valuable. But what I grew to understand, and it's through more experiences and wisdom, was that that was all necessary, right? And it shaped who the person that's answering this question today. And that's how I got here too. So being that person that is the vessel that, I'm hoping I'm doing what I believe is the purpose and doing it honor to help and guide women so that their landmines aren't as big as mine, so that their path isn't as crooked or as long suffering as mine has been. And therefore, how I got here was through all of those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I can't tell you how comfortable I am now. It's just it's an unreal thing. I mean, I'm 58 years old, and some of it I attribute to age, but the majority of it I just attribute to really loving myself and surrounding myself with the right people in my life. I've got the best, most unbelievable husband, and it took me a minute to get that right. I didn't do it so well with Alexis's father, and I've got some unbelievable friends, and not a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And I used to think I needed, this host of people. Mm-hmm. So I'm so comfortable in who I am, the person I just described to you. Yeah. And I no longer struggle or look back in angst or disappointment. Mm-hmm. Sure, would I wish how I got here be somewhat different? Absolutely. But I'm so okay with who I am and how I got here, which makes it this question just, I know it just already, we just opened this and it already just hit my heart here part. But no, that's who I am and the road that got me here.
Gosh, that is a beautiful answer. Oh. Like really, okay, nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I've never had anyone ask me that. That is a phenomenal question. And so my answer really just flowed from my heart. Because I've never been asked that. I just think that's awesome. That's probably going to lay with me now for a minute. So,
yeah, you can take that one with you. Yeah,
I think it will, for sure. I'll reflect on it for sure. And then I might use it absolutely in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. It's so beautiful. This idea of being comfortable is so interesting to me.
Oh, Erin. And it's such a hard place to get to.
Yeah. And no one talks about it as the be all end all. Be rich, be perfect, be beautiful, be whatever.
Comfortable. Nobody.
I love it.
They mention comfortable. It's always defined by these material things, money and this and that. No, I'm really talking about, I'm comfortable with me. I like me. I'm good with where I'm at. I'm good with what I see in the mirror. Yeah. And that's hard to get to, especially if you're like me, I've had so many people tell me the opposite. Mm-hmm. So, and it's made such a huge difference in my professional life, in my career. And it's the reason why I believe I've been able to make the impactful difference in the entrepreneurial space that I'm in and serving women as I do. So.
Can you talk a little bit about, so like when I just think this concept of comfort with self, to me is revolutionary, because like that is not something we're talking about. And I almost think comfort is usually made a negative thing. Like, oh, you're staying in your comfort zone. Like you're not trying things,
Good point. Yes.
And like we're sold out of comfort instead of being brought into comfort.
That's fabulous. Yes. Such an awesome point. It's either attached to material things or to your point, it's negative. Oh, you're not stretching yourself. Oh, you're not really reaching for goals. Oh, you're not, truly walking in your full self or your purpose if you're comfortable. And you're right. It's not positive. Everything we do on social media is the opposite of that. You have this imposter syndrome that clearly, is more prevalent than being comfortableness is. I mean, I think it's really sad. I mean, and I think that's where so many people, the anxiety, the anxiety and depression that certain generations live with now, the younger ones, is because of all of the comparisons and not being able to look in the mirror and know that they are enough.
Mm-hmm.
I sent my daughter a blanket that I found online that has everything that I could have, if I had written it, I can't take credit for it, but explain my heart. And it basically, I remember she got it and she said, Mom, it's bringing me to tears. Send me a text. And I told her this, I said, whenever you're anxious, whenever you have doubt, whenever you're just a bit uncomfortable, wrap yourself in that and know you're enough. Because that's what it's about, right?
100%. Yep.
That's what it's about.
It's so interesting because even in those moments of when we have to have like a conscious conversation, something happened, we feel like we're in trouble, like, yes. Or like we've disappointed someone or they've disappointed us. It's comfort that we're really looking for. And to me, comfort kind of meaning like peace as well.
It does. Comfort comes in so many different ways. It's peace. And for some people, it's validation. For some people, it's, it shows up in various forms. Mm-hmm. And you just brought up something now that we're all unfortunately living in and getting bombarded on TV and everything else is these courageous conversations and this imbalance that's existing in the States right now. So, being a Black woman, if I say I'm comfortable, I'm extra cautious, unfortunately, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm still comfortable with me. I don't allow this to disrupt my square, my solidness, my peace, to your point, which I think is excellent. Am I aware? Absolutely. Do I understand the challenges? No doubt. But I got to show up in that peace and that level of comfort, right? I mean, if I don't stand in that, then what do I have?
Oh, that's so interesting. And that's just making me think too about how we're kind of in control of what's happening inside of us and then what's happening outside. Perhaps we have influence, but also to some degree, we're never going to be able to control everything.
Absolutely, we're not. Absolutely, we're not. But what we can control, you said it, is what's inside of us and therefore what we project and how we show up. And I truly believe because I am so comfortable, because I love who I am, I don't enter situations stressed and chaotic and, constant. I talked to a client earlier today at an emergency call, and everything she talked about or everything she shared, she somehow saw a negative tilt in it. Mm-hmm. Everything. And I had to let her know that the issue is you, not your boss, not all these scenarios you're telling me about. It's your mindset. You need to shift. It's not really everybody else around you. Sorry to say, and she was projecting upon them her belief system or what she thought their belief system was, right, just by nature of who they look like or how they acted in a situation where she didn't think the response was proper. I mean, it was just so off, but it just really rooted in her mindset and her internal challenges. Mm-hmm. Her internal challenges.
Yep. It's so fascinating. I remember on one of our first calls when I was first learning about you and your work, you were talking about women kind of being in the workplaces and feeling like they're kind of on their own. People are out to get them. There isn't that hand helping them move up. Yes. And you having this reframe of what if you believed that they were actually there to help you?
Exactly.
You show up. And I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Right. Yeah. What if you shift that, right? Take the time to truly get to know them. That's why I say relationships are everything. Mm-hmm. Allow them to get to know you. It kills all these preconceived. Now, do we have those people? Right. Of course, we've got them. They exist. They're everywhere. But 9 times out of 10, Erin, I have found that if you get out of your own way, if you strip these preconceived notions, if you don't make it unnecessarily difficult, if you take the boulders off your shoulders, I mean, you just carrying around that, I don't know, that you're a female in a male-dominated environment or you're a woman, a person of color, and you're true, all of that's true. But if you carry all the boulders around and you have this wall of, I don't think anybody is worth my time. I'm not here to build relationships. Everybody's against me. No matter what I do, they're out for me. Then you know what I often say? Words have power. You put that out there, that is what you're going to experience. What you focus on is what you experience. I truly believe that. And if you switch your approach and your mindset, and to your point, you think, well, you know what? What if? What if? And you allow yourself to build a relationship, get to know people, allow people to get to know you. I have found that they will raise the hand and say, hey, I know Erin, I like her. She should have the opportunity to lead that major initiative. Oh, I know Linda. Yeah, she's really good at that. You're right. We should consider her in addition to these other people. That advocacy, that support exists, but you have to go and get it. It's not going to come to you just because you think you're all that and your work product's the bomb, because you're probably exuding your energy and your spirit is probably tilted like that, and you think you're all that. But you are so right. You are so right. People have to shift their mentality, shift their mindset, and allow some comfort to come in and open their minds, open their hearts and their minds.
I love that. So as someone, like, you teach this, you also embody this, like, this is, to me, like, it's who you are, right? And what you do.
Yeah.
Is this something, did you have a moment where something kind of like clicked and you saw things a different way? Or is this who you've always been? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I wish I could say.
Yeah.
No. Actually, Erin, it had happened to me professionally, is when I started making all the connections to the personal things and my issues, owning my issues so I could reshape them, reframe them, and shift. And when it happened is I was somewhat early in my career. I did have a lower level managerial role. So I had people, just few reporting to me. And I remember getting some feedback. And at the time in my career, I thought, oh, okay, clearly it's going to be negative. Everybody thinks feedback's negative, right?
Yeah, we get scared.
We get scared, right? And so I just immediately knew it was going to be, and it was. But when I really took the time to pay attention, it was freaking invaluable. And the feedback I was given was that, Linda, most people within 5 minutes to 10 minutes max, you dismiss them. You make a judgment on whether or not they're smart as you, or they know the answer, or they this and that and the other. You make a judgment and you really tune out. You're not even listening. And Erin, at first I was like, oh, that's not me. That's impossible. I'm the nicest person. I really prided myself on being nice and engaging, whatever. But when I had to take the time to reflect, and I asked them for examples, and I'll be doggone, Erin, they gave me examples of literal people that I'd done it. And when I reflected on the conversations in my mind's eye, it was right. They were right. I was not that warm, welcoming person. I was dismissive. I was judgmental, complete opposite of who I wanted to be. And what I learned was, Erin, because I grew up, having to be perfect and work so hard. And, my father left when I was 9, and he's passed away now, but never has said, I loved you. All those things had, aunts say, oh, you're ugly, you're this, that, other. I built up this need to be better than, right? Because my mother constantly told me, you got to work hard, be better than. And so I was so focused on trying to be so good, so better than, so that I don't get dismissed, so that I don't get mistreated, so that I don't get set aside. It's all that childhood stuff, right?
100%. Yep.
Yes. And so therefore, if you come in the room, or clearly I'm the big dog because my title's different. It's on the business card. I'm the manager, so let me, and that's not who I wanted to be. When I really dug deep in my heart, peeled back the onion, that's not who I wanted to be. That's not who I wanted to represent. And on top of that, how am I going to really be a leader? Because leaders influence people. You can't influence people if they don't trust you. Who's going to trust somebody like that?
Oh, those are such good questions.
You know what I'm saying? Who's going to do that, right? So that was the turning point for me that forced me to do a true introspective look at myself and understand, yeah, Linda, everybody knows you're good at what you do, but they don't like being around you. or people that report to you really, man, they're nervous, they're shaken before they walk in your office. God, what kind of environment is that? So that's when I figured out something's off. That's not who I am. And I stumbled my way through figuring out how to nail that root cause, and then being vulnerable enough to own it, because it had nothing to do with what I did at work. It had a lot to do with what was in here and those childhood issues. Once I was vulnerable enough to own that, and frankly, I did get, I went through some bad decisions, got some therapy, but that's when it shifted for me. That feedback. Because it really, I remember after I thought about it for a while, Erin, it kind of broke my heart.
Yeah.
That I was treating people the way people treated me. Do you know what I'm saying? No, I couldn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't have that anymore. That was the turning point.
Amazing. It's almost like a defense mechanism. It sounds like, here's my wall. You can't hurt me.
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. And I had to learn, and those are the nuggets. And I had to do some hard introspective work, but it's paid off in the long run. And that's what led me to the comfortableness. That's what led me to looking in the mirror and, yes, Linda, you have a lazy eye. So what? Love it. Yes, Linda, you're dark skinned. So what? Love it. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, your dad said he didn't love you. Okay, forgive him for that, right? You did the forgiveness piece, do it for you. All that work that we hear about and some of us don't like talking about, and we think it's separate from what we do either as entrepreneurs or what we do either as people in corporate America. We think it's separate. It's not.
No, it's all connected.
It's all connected because we are who we are, and how we show up is shaped by so many things.
This is just such an important conversation because I think we all have some version of this, unless we're somehow open-hearted and just like, you know what I mean? Most of us are unpacking something and unlearning something and like trying to move forward and grow. And I resonate with what you just said so much. I personally, how this kind of like showed up for me was I'm a comedian. I do comedy still, but for years, and I think as kind of like a teenager growing into adulthood, I would use comedy to be me. And like, I remember my mom even giving me feedback of like, this hurts. Like, I understand that you're funny, but you're hurting me. And I was like, okay. Whoa. And then from there, kind of took it, but also it's your mom. So maybe with a grain of salt of like, okay, whatever. Like, you're sensitive. I'm amazing. Yeah. And then, but moving into college and like hearing there would just be a couple moments where I could see the pain inflicted.
Wow.
Or having like that morning after of like, oh, wow. Probably, like, and because you create distance sometimes, even with joking. And it's this interesting form of like, I think especially with comedy and humor, you can feel a connection because there's laughter for a second, but also you push them away with the content of your joke.
Yes.
Or you can.
You can. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's so interesting to me, like just to what you were saying, the point of how you kind of are in one world is kind of how you are in all the worlds.
All worlds. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
And if it's not 100% of you, it's a piece of you, but you're still the same person.
Yes. And it kind of just like shows you those inner blocks. So I always find it so interesting. Like a lot of times I work with people on money mindset and their sales stuff. And if we didn't feel safe as kids, then we look for money for safety and like, we just copy and paste whatever was there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's that same thing that you're saying of like, well, I need to be a certain way. I need to have a certain amount. I have to be doing to be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise money won't be there.
Money won't be there. And that scarcity thing. I mean, I was raised in a household of that. My mother was born in 1928. So you can understand her mentality. Right. And, and I mean, oh my gosh, using the toothpaste until it actually, I mean, I say this, but when you're raised like that, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, okay, I can't throw this away yet because there's still, that much left in there. Let's squeeze. And, I mean, oh my gosh, how that shaped me, right? It shaped me.
I rip paper towels in half to this day because I can't bring myself to eat a whole one. It's these little things that you're like, this is normal. Like,
yes.
Or is it showing you how you grew up and what your life is?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And the opportunity that exists there, right? Because the opportunity to see how limiting some of that was. And when you can take a fresh perspective at it and really understand it, oh, the liberation is unreal. And I think that's also where some of my comfort level came from. I actually liberated myself from some of that stuff, that I grew up in. I remember having I'm 58. I shared this already, right? I think it's fairly recent. Might have been 55. I'm serious. 54, 55, where I had to have a conversation with my mother that I probably should have had when I was 25, 30, 35. No joke. Had it for the first time during a family reunion. She had been mistreating my husband, Chris, for I don't know how long. And he had just sucked it up. My ex-husband, for whatever reason, she just like he walked on water. It was just unbelievable. But this particular time, we were home. Alexis brought some guests. My mom embarrassed Alexis, which angered me, related to dad, which we don't even use stepdad. But she's made a comment. And then she said she did something to Chris that deeply hurt him, such that he stayed in the hotel and didn't come around. Erin, I'm sitting on the patio. I can see it right now. I'm crying because part of it's fear. It's this mother who's, been this and, has scared me half my life. But all that stuff from being 5, 6, 7, 15, 18, 20, all of that came out at 55 years old. My cousins were sitting there as support, 2 of them. One's like a sister of me, and they kept doing what you're doing, nodding the head, right? They kept in support of me to keep going. Man, Erin, that took most of my life.
Yeah.
But it was just releasing all the limitations. It was the liberation I needed that oh my gosh, wish I had gotten years ago with her. And that was something because it was just 4 or 5 years ago, but it's yet take me to another level of comfort that I really can sit in who I am as a person, right? Fully who I am and be okay with it. Although there may be stuff in who I am that she doesn't like, but that's her issue, not mine. Or as I say, and I'm not going to put in my wagon, push and pull. I can't express how much when we let go of limiting beliefs and when we can see beyond, what we believe, the walls that we put up for ourselves, when we actually can reach over top and see that there is life over top of those and that there's goodness over there and all this other wonderful stuff, man. And I really believe that's where, because I've not arrived. And I'm still growing in comfort, and I love it. Yes, right?
Yeah. That's an interesting idea, too, is that, I wrote down, as you said, that, the word liberation feels very strong and, very important. And this idea that maybe liberation is a process, it sounds like.
Clearly. Definitely a journey, definitely a process. For sure, Erin. And it will take potentially things to happen, right? And how you react and handle them for that liberation to grow over time, right? And so I do believe it's a process. I believe it comes in phases. And then we get to a point where we feel like we're totally allowed to be who we are. We're totally liberated. Yeah. And, I don't know. It's just been a painful but wonderful experience for me.
Yeah.
That I don't know, that goes back to your first question at the beginning. That has shaped who I am.
Yeah. Well, you just said something that I feel like is another just amazing point, which is you said I think you said painful and beautiful.
Yes.
Painful and wonderful.
Yeah.
And the fact that the inner work, the journey to comfort is sometimes hard and maybe always has hard and challenges in it. Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because personal development is painted with such rainbows and butterflies.
It sure is. Isn't
sit
it?
on a meditation pillow and your life is going to be so good.
Right. Okay.
But so sometimes it's interesting. I've had these conversations with just my ex-boyfriend is really who comes to mind. And the question of why do the work? Like, why show up for that if it's going to be hard? I'm wondering, do you speak to clients who are like, okay, I see what you're saying, but like, ooh, I don't know if I want to touch that.
Oh yeah. And they don't touch it at first. Right. And they don't, it's work. It's funny. I've got a client in California. It took her forever to do that work. But, and I share with them, look, the alternative is you don't, and you're right where you are today. Nothing changes. So help me understand. Now, fear is real, right? Fear is real. And it is fear, but it's false evidence appearing real. I tell my clients this all the time. False evidence appearing real.
Love it.
You think out of fear is making you believe that because it's hard, it will therefore not be worth it. Fear is making you make that wrong connection, that hard equals lack of value. Hard equals not worth it. Fear is making you think that. So if you take that false evidence that fear is giving you and flip it, and I often say to them, okay, if nothing else I've said to you makes sense, what do you have to lose if you try it? I mean, it's right. Like, if everything else I've said to you still isn't getting it, what do you'll have the pleasure of saying, Linda, I told you so.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. But I tell you, Erin, I have not had a client yet today in the 3 years I've been in business, and I've worked with many, many women, not one that has not taken the leap, although fearful, although reluctant, although all those things, but has jumped in totally, did all the hard work, and not a single one has yet to come out on the other side much better off, highly in touch, lot more comfortable, and being able to perform at a whole different level because of how they show up. I've even had clients, Erin, physically look different.
Oh, I believe that. Yep.
And when it first happened, when I first saw it, it blew me away. But I've seen them physically. I had one client even tell me, Linda, because of this work, I've changed my lifestyle. When I get up I get dressed differently. I actually put on makeup now. Their whole, and we're working on career, right?
Right.
We got to do the personal stuff, the introspective work first.
Yep.
So it's hard, but it's, oh my gosh.
It's so worth it, right?
So worth it. I can't even put into words how much it's worth it.
Yep. Do you feel like everyone and anyone is capable of doing this work, or do you feel there's like a certain type of person that it really takes to kind of go through this process to become more of themselves?
I believe everyone is capable. Because capable is one thing, right? But the difference is the deep desire for change. I've come across some people that I've realized that they, no matter what you did with them, their ability to see a need for change will probably never show itself. And I think they're so ingrained in, it's just like being in quicksand. They're just so ingrained in what they believe to be true and what they believe about themselves, and that no matter what anyone says, I have found, I've not worked with them, but I've found, because I'll follow them, they continue to struggle and not understand why. So capability, yes. I believe everybody's capable. You have to recognize, one, that you need, that something's wrong and what you've been doing isn't working. Okay. So having that, at least that minimal amount of awareness.
Yep.
Something's wrong. Clearly what I'm doing is not working. I don't know why it's wrong. I don't know what to, that's different. But if you don't even have that and you think it's everybody else in the world, and those people exist.
Right.
Then yeah, this type of work that I'm talking about will fall flat for them.
Yeah.
They still have the capability. They just have to be willing to unleash that capability.
Yeah. I love that it kind of comes down to the choice. Like we can all eat from the buffet, but you have to like get up and walk to the buffet to get something off of it.
Oh my gosh. I love the word choice. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have two questions for you. My brain's going in a million directions. I love this conversation. The first one is for someone who maybe is listening to this and is in a career and they're like, oh my God, she's speaking to me. Like, what would you say? Like, is there a first step or like, so say you're in the position where you're like, like I am this person, something is not right. I don't know exactly what it is. Like, where would you recommend they kind of like start with getting into the work?
Start with getting into the work is, if you can't do anything else at all, you need to bridge that gap of what you just said. I don't know what it is, right? So, and the way to find out what it is similar to how I found out. Feedback. Go get feedback. Don't be afraid of it. Go ask your coworkers. Go, if you have a human resources department and they can implement a 360, do that. Get as much information fed into you about who you are, what you do, and how you do it, how you show up. That's the critical first step.
I love that. And it sounds terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. It absolutely is. Because we don't know what people are going to say, and we're opening ourselves up, But that's the beauty in it. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty in it. Feedback is powerful. How people see you. There's no other way to know how people truly see you unless you allow them to tell you. You can perceive.
Oh, that was so good. I have like, my whole body just kind of went like wanting to shrink for a second because you're so right. And it's interesting. I invited like some clients last week to go post on Instagram and ask people like, what are 3 to 5 words that describe you? Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your partners. And this was from like a positive feedback standpoint, because not only is it hard to see our weaknesses, but I think it's also sometimes really hard to see our strengths.
Yeah, to have people praise you, you're like, oh, wait a minute, is that me? No, it can't be. Yeah.
Oh, so I love the call to action to like go get some feedback. What an easy like place to start that's accessible.
It's boom, you said the word. It's accessible. Mm-hmm. It's accessible. People, people are willing to let you know. You ask. Right. They'll tell you, right? Mm-hmm. So, and those are, the things that sometimes I tell people, look, and if you don't know what to ask these questions. What should I keep doing? What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? 3 simple questions, right?
Yes, I love that.
Because you don't know how to get the feedback. There you go. Ask those 3 questions. And that's enough to spark a conversation. Some people will just answer those flat out. Some people will answer them and give you more to spark the conversation. But that's it, Erin. Get yourself some feedback. And when you get all that information, then the key is, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah. Then we can make a plan from there.
You can make a plan from there. You might want to reach out to someone to help you put that plan together. But if you don't have that feedback, I really think you're missing an extremely critical, large link in the chain towards your development and growth. Absolutely.
I love that. I think that's really, really valuable advice. Thank you for that.
Oh, sure.
When it comes to, so it's interesting because you're focused on professional development, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really personal. Like you have to develop the person to develop the professional to get where you're going in your career.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about like, how has doing this work shaped or not shaped, like who you are and how you are as like a wife and a mother and in all the other like aspects of your life?
Oh my gosh. Awesome question. You are just phenomenal with it.
Thank you.
So one of the things it's really helped me in doing this work as a wife, we'll start with that, is continue to sharpen my ability to understand that people handle situations differently, process information differently. And it's allowed me to interact with my husband in ways that I haven't probably been so very good at interacting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I some things he'll do or say, I'm like, wow, my client just did that, and
Yeah.
and he even, what's so funny, Erin, is I'm here at home in my office and he'll hear me talking to clients and then we'll do something. He'll say, well, you didn't tell so-and-so. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just use that. But it's allowed me to, and he even takes it into work. He's like, I get that stuff for free. I was like, yeah, you do. But so my interaction with him, my level of understanding of how, because he may process things differently than I do, all of my clients process information differently. That's why my services are not cookie cutter. I can't deliver them in a cookie cutter fashion because we're doing introspective work and career work, and everybody processes differently. Everybody's situations are differently. So that's how it's helped me greatly as a wife. As far as a mom, my daughter is 24 and will be 24 on Saturday. And man, has that helped me allow her to truly just be. I've always done it, I thought. Mm-hmm. I think I've gotten better at, put it that way, allowing her to really be her and walk in her authentic self in her way. But it's also helped me sharpen my ability to advise her. You know what I mean? My connection with my clients are more than just, we really have a connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I fly my first session, wherever you are, I fly to you. Like when I went to, because I wanted to look at her face. I wanted to be across, this was before social distancing and stuff. I wanted to be in the room with them because that first 2 hours we work together, we do such deep work in that first 2 hours. And that helps us establish a connection and it helps me serve them better, right? Because I get to know them. And some of my clients, we still keep in touch.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years later. So that's allowed me to be a better mom to Alexis because I can allow her to walk authentically. And I advise her, I think, a lot better than I maybe have over the years. And I try to step out of I've tried to step out of the mom role sometimes when I'm responding to her or helping her out and try to see it from a different view. Right.
Yeah.
And so all these various client engagements have helped me show up and I think in a much better way in my personal life.
That's so interesting. Do you see how you are, the strategies that you're bringing to those relationships, like with your daughter, can you see that in her, like the way that you are and the way that you do things?
Yeah, I see some of it. Yes, I do. And because she shares with me her engagement with her friends. I actually, to be frank with you, I see my old self in my daughter, and part of that pains me, to be frank. But I also know that she's got to go through some of it the way I did. So, and with her romantic relationships, and her father left. Okay. So our divorce, she was young. She had some of the same experiences I did, unfortunately. And it shaped Alexis and her view when she sees in the mirror of her value because her father dismissed her. Right. And it didn't, Chris has done a great job coming in her life when she was 6, but still her father, who shows up at 13 out of the blue. And now she's 23. She still doesn't have a relationship with him. That is her choice, but it shaped her. And so I saw some of my old self in her and how she latched on, made some bad choices and decisions, her definition of what it means to be loved, the wall she tended to point up for herself as well. The perfectionism. Oh my gosh, Erin, I had perfectionism to the point where I had nervous stomach when I was younger. My daughter and this perfectionism thing, and I tried to kill it with her. So yes, I see some of the positives. Yep. And I see some of the opportunities as well.
Oh, it's so interesting. I have a daughter too, who's 7, and I grew up in a family where my parents divorced when I was young. I have 2 kids. I divorced when they were young. And it's so interesting. One of the things I really appreciate though about doing the work is that I feel like I can support her in a different way, right? By having that lens of being I see what's happening here. How can I love you through this?
Absolutely. And you have the wonderfulness of doing it at 7. I think I picked up on some of that when she was young as well. I got better in her preteen years. And those were tough years. But yeah, supporting my daughter. I'm so different than my mom. I'm so different because I saw what happened. Your point's it's so on target. I saw what happened to me in that environment, and I did not want to repeat it. Right. So I've never said a negative word about her dad. When he did show up, I left it up to her to decide, even as an adult, she'll say, Mom, my father's still trying to reach out. Should I talk? Like, Alexis, that's really up to you. Flip the script. If it was my mother, she had all kinds of, and I felt obligated, right? Because that's the parent that I stayed with. That's the parent that seemed to care. So, you're so spot on. And so I'm better for those experiences and helping her. And I also realized that from a distance, I have to let Alexis grow and become the person and have the discoveries like I had, so that she can get to a level of comfort. I will say that at 24, I can see, Chris and I just said that the other day, we can see our daughter really starting to settle into herself finally, and really just, and loving who she is, and, doing well, and not being so hard on her, all that stuff that, that used to be there, it's starting to go away. So I'm happy for her. Yeah.
What a gift. And what a gift to have an example as a parent, as a coach, as a consultant, and as a boss, right? Cause you're still in the corporate world as well. It is just such a gift to be in your presence and to be with someone who's kind of doing that work and really embodying that and teaching other people. And I just think it's so fascinating that, we're doing the work to be more successful, let's say, in a particular trajectory, and how that really affects us in so many different ways.
It does.
And you're making generational impacts. There's so many ripples just from if we're helping leaders who are then affecting other teams.
Yes.
Those teams go home, they have families. This is really, really important work. And I just thank you for showing up and for sharing yourself and sharing your skills. It's so important, and you're such a gift. Just thank you for you.
Oh, I really appreciate you, Erin. It's so important. I'm like this at my 9 to 5 as well. And my teams come first, and I am always trying to impress upon them the importance of being authentic, vulnerable, and self-care, and all. I even provide training around it. So you're right. It is so important to me in every aspect of what I do. It's been an honor. I really appreciate you having me. And I so appreciate podcast. Thank you for you. I love this. I love it. Yes. And I love you. Can I say that?
Yes, I love you too.
I do.
Sincerely. Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, it's Erin, and I want you to know that you matter. Everything you're doing and everything you've done, it all matters. It all counts. Because you are important to the people around you, your family and friends, your audience, your clients, and quite honestly to the world. Whether you're changing lives on the front line or changing lives while you're changing diapers, your presence matters. Every life you touch counts. And from just one interaction, there can be infinite, meaningful effects. And for that reason, I want to thank you for showing up and doing the work to be with yourself and share your light and your gifts and your love with those around you. If you want support with any of this human being stuff, you're always welcome to join me inside of my coaching membership, Human Being Club, at humanbeingclub.com, or follow along with me on Instagram for more behind the scenes silly stuff at Erin Lindstrom. Once again, thank you for being here, and thank you for you.